Hey there, everybody. I work with my clients a lot on social strategies, how to be more effective communicating with other people. And one thing that I hear routinely from my clients is, I don't like people. I'm not comfortable in social situations. I just don't want to deal with people. And I was talking to one of my clients about this yesterday, and I encouraged him to, kind of expand on that a little bit. What was it about people that he really didn't like? And what we were able to deduce is something that I haven't talked about before, as far as I can recall, but it's really critical for people out there who don't have ADHD or Asperger's. It's critical for you to understand. And that is around the issue of emotional intensity. Now, there used to be this stereotype that people with autism didn't have any feelings, didn't care for people. And then the Asperger's population started self-advocating and saying, hold on there. It's not that we don't feel, it's that we feel too much. One of the things that we need to be able to regulate in our experience as human beings is our emotional states. Going from frustration to rage or from anxiety to panic. We need to be able to manage those emotional states. Well, those of you living with somebody who has autism or Asperger's or ADHD, you can see just how intense we can get. And a lot of that has to do with problems with emotional regulation. Keeping ourselves from hitting the ceiling, being able to keep ourselves at kind of an equal or homeostatic level. Well, there's one thing about human interaction that allows us to connect with one another. It's called rapport, meaning your ability to get on the same page, and kind of feel each other's energy and get a sense of where the other person is at. Well, what if your rapport rather, is something that opens up a floodgate of energy, okay? If we are highly empathic people, which people with ADHD and autism tend to be, then we feel other people's emotions like a flood. Now, keep in mind that once we feel that flood of emotion and establish some rapport, hey, I understand that you're sad, I understand that you're angry, and I also understand that I have a hard time regulating my own emotions. So when I'm feeling this flood of emotions from you, I now have to regulate my own emotions, and I don't do that very well. So imagine what that would feel like if you were in a social situation with people that were talking really loud, that were laughing really loud, that were shouting in order to be heard over the din. We're taking this all in like a flood, okay? And even positive emotions can be overwhelming. Imagine that relative of yours that has that loud cackling laugh, that's very loud every time they open their mouth. We feel that intensity. We don't just say, oh, so-and-so's man needs to keep it down. We feel it like a rush. And now we have to be able to manage our internal emotional state that's in response to that. And we can't necessarily tell that person, stop it, keep it down, you're being too loud, because that's inappropriate. So instead, we sit there and try and suck it in, try and repress it until we can't do it anymore, and then we blow like a pressure cooker. And then what happens? We get scolded. We get shamed, we get admonished for you're being inappropriate and you're acting out, and that's awfully rude. And in many cases, the person with ADHD or Asperger's doesn't know how they got there because no one has educated them about their own emotional regulation. So the only thing they can figure out is when I go in social situations where there's a lot of people talking and laughing, I get overwhelmed, so I don't want to be there. So I do everything I can to avoid it. So what's the solution? It begins with education. Each person learning this about themselves. What is their emotional tipping point? What kind of experiences are just too much? Is it laughter? Is it talking about bad news? The person that always complains, the worrier? Whatever it is, you need to support this person in buffering their communication or their exposure to a person with that kind of energy. Otherwise, it's going to go south on you really fast. At a higher level, the social strategies is setting those boundaries. I have a relative that likes to focus on everything that's hurting and everything that's doom and gloom and bad. And when I talk to this person, and this person begins with, Oh, well, let me tell you what happened with this and this. I say flat out, I don't want to talk about that. I want to hear something that's working in your life. Tell me what you are looking forward to. Tell me what you're grateful for today. If there's some time, we want to, we'll talk about some of the things that aren't working for you. I'll see if I can give you a little advice. But let's start on a high note. Let's create a little balance in your perspective. Jessie chimed in here. She said she's seen it happen with her son, especially after his grandma died. He would have meltdowns over you crying. He'd get very hyper when other people are hyper and he struggles to settle down. Jesse, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, how he gets set off by other people because of all that emotional intensity coming in. So one thing that's going to be important for him is what I've been talking about here, which is helping him learn what's going on with him, why it's happening, what are the triggers. When it comes to people you're familiar with, you can foresee this. Certain people behave in predictable ways. So you can have a plan with him going in that if this person's intensity starts to get to you, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to very nonchalantly remove you from that situation, give you some deep pressure, maybe a big hug, maybe talk about it, maybe give you a little bit of video game time, whatever it takes to de-escalate him so he can come down out of the rafters and then re-engage that environment. So that's about as much I can say about this, speaking in general terms. I hope this has been helpful. Feel free to pass it on to other people. And until next time, I'm Brian. Have a nice day.